So today I want to talk about something I'll call autism critics. And what I mean by that is there are actually a couple different kinds of people I'm thinking about here. And on one hand, you have the people who think autism doesn't exist, or they may think high functioning autism or Asperger syndrome, PDD, NOS, those kind of things don't exist. And I myself have run into that attitude a few times. And the idea that autism itself doesn't exist kind of makes me laugh because my husband, he works with like pretty low functioning autistic kids, and let me tell you, if they're faking it, they're like the best actors and actresses in the whole entire world. So I just don't understand how people can say autism at all doesn't exist. Now, high functioning autism, I understand to an extent why people may think it's not real, because a lot of those of us who have Asperger's syndrome or PDD, NOS, or whatever, we've kind of learned over the course of our lives to hide a lot of our symptoms, or we've kind of learned how to blend in or fly under the radar. But for people who actually know someone who has high functioning autism, I've never known someone who knows someone who has it like intimately, like a family member, and believes it isn't real, because once you've lived with it and seen it constantly, it's hard to deny that there's definitely something there. And I know that high functioning autism, because of a lot of its symptoms, it can often be misdiagnosed, or a person who has high functioning autism can be diagnosed as something else. I know common things that people are diagnosed with that are considered kind of sister conditions in a way, although they're really not. But I know bipolar disorder is one thing that is often misdiagnosed either one way or the other, and even schizophrenia, I've heard, can be something that people with autism are diagnosed with, or someone with schizophrenia may be diagnosed with autism. And part of this, I think, is because there are some similar symptoms. There's definitely the depression and anxiety, and there's usually some real social issues. And I do want to state that I really cringe when people jump to the assumption that someone has Asperger's syndrome or autism just because they have socialization issues. Believe me, there are a lot of conditions that can cause social issues. And it really bothers me when, someone kills a bunch of people, and because that person had social issues, everybody thinks they had autism. Because that may be entirely untrue unless they've been tested and it was proved that they had all these symptoms of autism. And the thing with that is also, I know with the way they diagnose people, sometimes they diagnose on just a few symptoms, and I think that's when people get misdiagnosed the most. If you get diagnosed with like all the symptoms of autism, like you have the repetitive behaviors, and you have the sensory issues, and you have the social issues, and you have like proprioception, which is like trouble finding yourself in your space, like you tend to run into things because you misjudge how close they are or how far they are from you. And that's definitely something I myself have struggled with. And then you have often some kind of depression or anxiety often comes along with it. And I mean, there's a lot of different symptoms, and if you have all the symptoms, then a lot of times it's easy to say you fit into the autism diagnosis. But if you only have a few and a doctor jumps to that diagnosis, that can definitely cause some problems. And the other kind of autism critic I want to talk about is the kind who, a lot of these people, they themselves have high functioning autism, but they look at other people who have high functioning autism, and they see that they don't seem to struggle as much in certain ways. And so they kind of jump all over those people, or try to make those people feel bad by saying, you don't really have autism because you're not like me, or you don't have it as bad as I do. And that really bothers me because, first of all, you never really know how much someone struggles inside with things. Like, I know I myself have learned to mimic social behaviors very well, at least in short periods. Like, I can go to, a social event and I can try to blend in and, try to keep a lot of my autistic symptoms kind of under control so they're not as noticeable. But if you live with me, it's impossible for me to keep them under control that much. So the people who live with me, they see a side of me that a lot of other people don't see. And also, like, I have very good verbal abilities, and a lot of people with high functioning autism do have very good verbal abilities. In fact, a lot of children with high functioning autism have really advanced verbal abilities when compared to their classmates and things like that. But some people don't. Some people don't learn to speak until they're older, or they struggle a lot more with verbal abilities. And the thing that bothers me is when someone says, well, I have struggled a lot with verbal abilities and you haven't, so I have autism and you don't, or I have a harder kind of autism than you have. Because, just because I excel in verbal abilities and I've learned to kind of navigate social issues to some extent doesn't mean that I don't struggle with a lot of the other symptoms. Like, when I was tested, I had really severe sensory issues, like worse, the doctor said, than most people with high functioning autism have. And, it kind of bums me out sometimes to think that, other people with autism, don't struggle to the extent I do with sensory issues with, clothes and food and weather and heat and cold and sounds and lights and all those things. And sometimes it is a little bit of a bummer to think, well, I'm suffering even worse than other people who have the same condition I have. But, that's just the way it is. You're going to have some symptoms worse than others. That's just the way autism is. It's a spectrum. And, no matter what part of the spectrum you're on, you still have a lot of the same issues. So instead of attacking each other and saying, well, you don't have as bad as I do, or, I have real autism and you don't, maybe we should, try to support and encourage each other. And that's what I mostly want to say is, if you're a person who has autism, don't attack other people because they don't have it exactly like you do. Try to understand that they may suffer in ways that you don't, And another issue that I myself have, aside from the sensory issues, is social anxiety. And I have that really severe. I mean, even, like I said, the doctor said that I had that more severe than most people he has had who have high functioning autism. And again, I wish I didn't have such hard time with it, but I do, and I have to learn to live with it and deal with it. But I can't jump on everybody else who has autism just because they may not have it to the extent that I do. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say. Just first of all, if you don't believe autism is real, please read up on it and find out more about it, because I guarantee you it is real. And a lot of people, I've heard the argument that because Asperger's and PDD NOS have been taken out of the diagnostic manual, the names themselves, and they have been kind of put into an umbrella term, which is like autism spectrum disorder or something like that. But some people are saying, well, since they took Asperger's out and they took PDD NOS out, they're not real and they never were real. Well, no, that's not at all true. In fact, if you talk to a psychologist, they'll explain to you that those conditions still very much exist. They're just now put under a different name when they do diagnoses. So I wish people would kind of research that kind of stuff before they go around, trying to make people feel bad and stuff. So that's my first thing. And the second thing, like I said earlier, is just, if you have autism yourself, try not to be so judgmental of other people who have it, and understand that you don't see all that is inside a person just by looking at the outside of the person. They may seem to do well in certain areas, but it doesn't mean that they have it easy and life is a cakewalk for them. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say. If you have something to say about this subject, please feel free to comment below. And I hope you'll continue to come back and watch my future videos and subscribe if you haven't already. So thanks, and I appreciate you watching. Bye.